Okay, today's video is about the zero product property. And this basically says if A times if A times B equals zero, then A equals zero, B equals zero, or both A and B equals zero. Okay, because remember anything times zero is zero. So if we have a factored form of a quadratic equation this time, equaling zero, we want to follow these steps in order to find the values of x that would make this factored form of a quadratic equal to zero. Okay, so the steps for doing so, for step number one, we want to make sure the factors are set equal to zero, which in our case for our model problem, it is. We have two binomials set equal to zero, and we want to remember that f of x equals zero. That's for when we're dealing with functions. So we're going to replace this f of x later on with a zero and set it equal to this factored form. Then we want to split the factors up and set each individual factor equal to zero. So we're going to kind of you can draw like a T-chart if you're able to draw. If you're not, just set each one equal to zero. So we have 2x minus 1 equal to zero. That's our first factor equal to zero. And then x plus 4 equal to zero. And we want to just go ahead and solve our equations and solve for x to find out the values of x that would make this equal to zero. So we're going to, on the left-hand side, we're going to add 1 to both sides. And we get 2x equals 1. Divide by 2. We get x is equal to 1/2. On the right-hand side, we're going to subtract 4 on both sides. And we get x is equal to -4. So the lesser value of x is -4. The greater value of x is 1/2. Now we can go back and check this. Like if we took -4 and plugged it back in, just by plugging it into this one binomial, -4 plus 4 is 0. 0 times anything, no matter what this was going to be, would be 0. So that works. 1/2 times 2 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So a is 0. No matter what this is, when we multiply them together, it's going to equal 0. For number 2, find the zeros of a function. Here we're going to replace f of x with 0. And then we're going to set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x on both sides. So here we're going to subtract 4. It's a two-step equation. The 4's cancel. We're left with 2x equals -4. And divide by 2 on both sides, we get x is equal to -2. And on the left-hand side, we're going to subtract 7. On the right-hand side, excuse me. Subtract 7 from both sides, and we get x is equal to -7. So the lesser value is -7. The greater value is still a negative number, but it's -2, remember, because that's closer to 0. Pause the video here and try to check for understanding yourself. Okay, so here we have f of y equals y minus 3 times 2y plus 6. Again, setting the factors equal to 0, which in doing so allows us to set each factor equal to 0. So to find the values of y that would make this equation true, okay, to find our zeros of a function, basically we're trying to find the x intercepts, right? Those two values where y is 0 on the x-axis for your parabola. 2y equals -6. We're going to divide both sides by 2, and we get y is equal to -3. So our lesser value is -3, our greater value is +3. So those are your values of y. And you can always write your answers in like a solution set with a -3 first, comma 3. Those are your values of y that would make the zero product property true.